One Piece chapter 1015 is out, and for not being a rooftop chapter, it's still full of action. The cover story this week has Senior Pink being carried by a stork who mistook him for a baby. And I love that even though it's a mistake, Senior Pink is just chilling, as if there was nothing wrong here, and this is what he does on a daily basis. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. The announcement of Luffy's defeat is still ringing throughout the dome, and we see different people reacting to the news. We see Chopper, who's starting to panic a little bit because he's wondering what happens now that they don't have Luffy here. And initially I was thinking the Straw Hats should know the way Luffy works and the fact that he's not done yet. But I think we often forget that Chopper is very mentally a kid, very mentally young, so that some of these things will come off as he worries much easier than the rest of the crew. Even though I think he has 100% faith in Luffy and his ability to take down Kaido, I think he still has the ability to panic more so than the rest of the crew. Other members of the Alliance, whether it be on the Samurai side or the Mink side, they all seem to have lost some semblance of faith. We don't necessarily hear everyone say, well, the fight's over, but we do see like some defeated faces. There are some people wondering what this means for the plan. You even see them asking about Momo and if he's still alive. So the idea that their morale is weakening is basically what's going around here. And on the opposite side of that, we have the Beast Pirates who are kind of reveling in this. They hear Kaido's announcement, and we even see like Briscola, who we saw got mopped earlier, is going back saying, yes, Kaido's just that strong, our leader is taking place here. Our leader is the one who's coming out on top. So this announcement kind of has a twofold effect to it. Now we see that they're mentioning the Kiwidongos, so they haven't realized that once Tama gets to the live floor, that's going to switch up, and we're going to have a massive army of gifters fighting for us. Izo and Kawamatsu pretty much see through what Kaido's trying to do. They notice that he's trying to lower the morale, and even though they're aware of it, it still kind of sucks that everyone else is kind of falling into that pace. And even Sanji mentions that, even though there's no confirmation, even though they honestly have no idea what happened, they're still losing their morale. They're still losing the will to fight. Queen and Perospero are taking advantage of the confusion here and the kind of lost morale, and they decide to go on the offensive. You have Perospero who's launching candy arrows again from a distance, and then you have Queen who's basically just antagonizing people, which is what he does. That's part of Queen's character. And as they launch their attack, we get the return of Mr. Prince. We get some Sanji action, and some good Sanji action. He comes in, kicks Queen, and blocks all the candy arrows all through one attack. We've been waiting to see Sanji come through with something here, and it looks like he's about to get his battle with Queen. It might even include Perospero, I'm not entirely sure, but it looks like he's actually about to get a good fight. And you can make a pretty clear comparison to some of Sanji's other entrances, like when he stepped up on Virgo or when he came on Jabra. He had that same kind of energy that he has now, that basically he's coming in the nick of time and he's delivering that speech of, all right, this is where I can do the most here. Thank you for getting as far as you could. I'll take care of the rest. Sanji also takes time to remind Chopper that Luffy is known for miracles. Luffy is known for coming back in the worst of situations, and Sanji knows that firsthand with everything he did in Whole Cake Island. So Sanji already knows what's up. Chopper, of course he knows, but like I said, he's a kid, so sometimes he has to be reassured. Sanji leaves Zoro in Chopper's hands, which I think means that Zoro might be coming back here pretty soon. I think we kind of expected Zoro to eventually be healed, not necessarily to 100% or even like 50%, but enough to where he can do something else in this war. We also see that Queen mentions Sanji's judge's kid again, which I think we might get some more lore or backstory as to how Queen ended up the way he is, as far as mechanically speaking. As we've noticed in the more recent chapters, Queen has a lot of enhancements, and even in this chapter it seems like his teeth can retract and create some kind of steel needles, or basically something sharp sticks out of his teeth. It almost seems like every part of Queen is mechanical in some way, shape, or form, and that's crazy considering when we first met Queen, we literally only thought it was his arm. But now we're seeing every part of his body have some kind of cyborg enhancement. We also get a quick glimpse of Marco, who seems to still be fighting. Each time we see Marco, probably for the past 2 or 3 chapters, we've just seen him and his flames around him. So I think that's indicating that he's still fighting, and since Queen is dealing with Sanji and Chopper, I'm going to assume he's fighting King. Otherwise, I don't know what King's doing in all of this. Now let's cycle back to the attic to see what's going on. Now there's a lot of mention of Kaido's club cracking and that being a possible save for Kinemon, but even though it still may come up later on, it didn't come through now. Kinemon just got his head smashed in. And even though he's basically quivering on the floor, he's still got a little bit of fight left in him, enough to get a last stab on Kaido. Now, as he's doing this, we kind of get the flashbacks of Kinemon and Momo's story, how they were kind of father and son, but not really, how they traveled together. Basically, what we saw in the beginning for Kinemon and Momo. Now, in the poll for the last chapter, a lot of you said that Kaido was going to start killing scabbards. And honestly, I think I have to agree with you, because it looks like he just killed Kinemon. We get the flashback, we get the discretion shot, we pretty much get all the key factors of, hey, this character is dying. And the way Kaido does it is just, it's almost how I want to say satisfying, because he delivers an epic speech with it, and he pretty much stabs Kinemon through the stomach and into the ground. So it's like, Kinemon's not going anywhere, and he pretty much just got stabbed straight through the body. Now, even though this should be a pretty high indicator of death, I actually just had a thought while recording this video that we still have the mysterious figure that was going around healing people, and what are the chances that they come here and help Kinemon? Now, I think that after taking a Ragnarok and being stabbed like this, Kinemon should realistically be done. We don't know. The possibilities are still there for him to be rescued and saved, so I'm not going to put 100 on it, but I do think this is pretty convincing. And let's talk about that speech for a second, because that felt really impactful. And I particularly like when Kaido says it's not easy to accept defeat, but sometimes you have to. And this coming from Kaido, who we've known has lost multiple battles. He's lost against Yonko, he's lost against the Marines. He's familiar with this kind of regret and feeling your loss, but he's like, sometimes you just have to accept it. Sometimes you just have to take it on the chin. Now, as Kaido was savagely handling Kinemon, Momo picked up the frog communicator and he's spreading the message that he got in the last chapter. Now, initially we thought that there was a voice of all things to a possible creature, a possible, basically something that wasn't of the normal story, something that we hadn't seen yet, something that we hadn't expected. There was also ideas of Zunisha, but not as many as I would have thought. But as it turns out, it was Luffy all along. And how Luffy is doing this, I honestly have no idea, because we initially want to think the voice of all things, and I think that's what's happening between him and Momo. But we also see Luffy communicating with the Heart Pirates, and they say somehow we can hear his voice. Now, initially I would think that in order to hear the voice of all things, you have to be somewhat special. But the fact that the Heart Pirates could all hear Luffy's voice either leads me to believe that there's another ability in play here, or that Luffy's connection to the voice of all things is so strong that he can impart that on people who honestly don't normally hear that kind of stuff. And the message that Luffy left behind was that he was definitely coming back to beat Kaido. And the message actually alludes to the fact that Luffy did lose, but he's coming back. Now, hearing Momo over the intercoms gives a few different effects to the morale of basically the Alliance, because not only do they hear Momo's voice, which, a little bit earlier they were talking about, is he dead? Is he still alive? But they hear that Luffy is coming back. So this pretty much reinvigorates all the lost morale they had just a few seconds ago. And even Kaido mentions like, okay, are you happy with that? Are you glad you did that now? And we get a few cool shots of basically everyone reacting to what's happened. We see all the samurai of the Alliance stick their swords in the air. We see all the Straw Hats cheering and being happy. Basically, we see them all cheering for Luffy to come back. And while we're all in the Alliance, let's talk about what some of the other people are doing, because we get a few glimpses here and there. We see Nami running through with Usopp and Tama, and it looks like Zeus has been somewhat imparted in the climate act. Now, how much of that soul is in there, I have no idea. What I imagine is like it's a percentage, like a 70-30 type deal, where even though Hera ate most of Zeus' soul, some of it escaped and went into the climate act. Now, my question is, can Big Mom sense this? Will Big Mom be able to look at that and see that it's essentially a homie made of her own soul. We also see Law step into the fight with Kid and Big Mom, and Law mentions that he's come to know to trust Luffy no matter what happens. So basically he's like, Luffy's gonna be fine, he's gonna do what he needs to do. He's seen enough of Luffy doing things to know that he doesn't have to worry. And I like the confidence that Law has in Luffy because it reminds me of when they were in Punk Hazard and basically Caesar's getting away. And Law is saying we have to get him back, but Luffy says, hey, step back, trust my crew. It kind of gives me those kind of things because Law's like, you know what, trust Luffy, it's fine, he's got this. Now, Kaido was pursuing Momo and Shinobu, but Shinobu used her ability to get away and basically left Kaido by himself. What ends up coming out of this might be one of my most anticipated 1v1s because Yamato shows up and calls out Kaido. And it looks like they're going to have some kind of altercation. Yamato definitely came here to fight, and I don't know how that fight's going to go, but I think we're really going to see a lot of Yamato's ability here. I think we're going to see whatever Devil Fruit or Mysterious Power Yamato has. I think we're going to see other fighting capabilities. I think we're going to see some nice clashes between a father and child. And the moment they have kind of mirrors the moment that Kinemon and Momo have, where like, you know, there's a father and son that don't really exist, and there's a father and son that don't want to exist. It's an interesting dynamic. I thought this chapter was excellent. A lot of good stuff here, a lot of things to be hyped for, a lot of things I'm waiting to see in the upcoming chapters. Let me know what you guys thought below. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe. There's going to be another poll down below as well in the description. You guys have a great one. Bye.
You know they say that kings aren't born to me, and maybe I'd agree if I weren't born this way. I know that sometimes I don't have a lot to say, but this